Hi everyone, this is Ms. McCalmon. Today we're doing the digital cutout demo based on Rich McCor. So we're going back into photop.com and starting a new project. So File, and then New. And our dimensions are still 8.5 by 11 inches. I'm going to make sure my title is a little different, Demo 2. Although we'll probably watch this demo first. Resolution still 300 dpi. Create. There we go. And I actually want to change the orientation because my image is landscape. So I'm going to go to Image, Transform, Rotate 90 degrees. So now I have a landscape orientation on my canvas. So first I want to start with my digital image of my cutout. So I'm going to Control or Command C, Control or Command V to get that pasted in there. And I'm going to go to my Move tool so I can transform that. And I'm going to make it nice and big, but I want to cut out that vector stock bit. So I'm going to use the rectangle select tool here to just cut out my area just there. And I'm hitting Command or Control J to make a copy of that, so that gets rid of that vector stock. So now I just have this layer, and I'm going to call this paper cutout, I believe. I like to name my layers so I know which ones are which. It's a good habit just to keep you organized, especially as we get into projects with more layers. I think I end up calling it paper cutout. Something like that. Whatever makes sense to you and keeps you organized. So now I have this, but right now I still have the white background attached. So I'm going to go to my magic wand tool and I'm going to click on a white spot in the image, and you can see the dotted line is selecting the white. So I'm going to hit delete, which doesn't look like it does anything, but if I get rid of the background, you'll see that I've only left the black images, or the black part of that cutout. So now I want to put my background image in there, which is this photo I took in California. So I'm going to paste it above my background layer. And you can see that my paper cutout isn't really in the right spot. So I want to go back to that layer and go to my Move tool. I'm going to make sure it's sitting in the water, and maybe make this a little bit smaller. There we go. I like that orientation. And I'm going to my layers, and I'm doing a brightness contrast layer, and I'm making it a clipping mask so it only applies to my paper cutout layer. And I'm gonna take the contrast way up and the brightness down. This will get rid of any little bits of the white that the magic wand tool didn't really select. So if I zoom in on this now, you'll see that the edge is a little bit crisper there. Yep, not so fuzzy looking. So now I can edit this a little bit if I want, and then I need to add in my hand. So I took an image of my hand just on a blank background with my phone. So I'm going to go to my Finder and Control C, Control V, or Command C, Command V to get that in there. And you'll see when I import this, it's underneath that brightness contrast layer, so the image doesn't look quite right. So I need to pull that layer above that clipping mask, or pull the brightness contrast layer below. Either way works. So this orientation doesn't actually work for kind of how the cutout looks. So I'm going to go to Image, and then Transform, Flip horizontally. This just creates the mirror image. There we go. And now that makes a little bit more sense for how my image is laid out. I want to get rid of this background, so I'm going to use the pen tool to carefully select around my hand. And then I'm going to right-click or double-click to say Make Selection. And then I'm going to add a vector mask there. Now my hand is in the wrong spot, so I'm going to use my Move tool to change where my hand is. And you want to make sure you're clicking on the right layer. There we go. So I think that is a pretty good spot. But now my fingers aren't really layered correctly. It doesn't look like I'm holding a paper cutout. So I'm going to go in and fix that. So there's a couple things you could do. You could just erase the parts of your finger. So I'm going to start off with that. I'm going to erase, I'm going to make that a little bit bigger. So I'm erasing my finger just so it looks like it's behind that paper. But then when I try to go into it the other part, it gets a little tricky. So I'm actually making a copy of my paper cutout layer and putting it above my hand. Because now it's easier just to, on the paper cutout copy layer, to erase the area around my thumb. Because then my thumb is the only part that's above the image there. So that's actually the fastest way to do that. And I would recommend just doing that. Don't even do that first erasing step. My line's a little bit messy, but I think it's pretty good. And I think I actually had some pen on my thumb or something there. And then that area I think is left over from below. So again, probably easier just to start with your initial, just copying your cutout, and then just erasing in the one area you need to. So that looks pretty good actually. And then one last effect that I'm going to add is a drop shadow to my quote paper cutout. Just to make it look like I'm holding something. To layer, and then layer style, drop shadow, and you can adjust the angle of the shadow, and it should show you a preview of what it looks like. So I kind of want it like that, and then I realized because I'm on my first cutout layer, it's actually not putting the shadow on my hand, so I'm going to go back and add another drop shadow to that second paper cutout that I have. So I'm going to go layer, layer style, drop shadow, and try to make that angle similar. I don't think I actually made it exactly the same, but I think that's close enough. So something like that, just so it looks like I'm actually holding something over my hand. This is up to you as well. You don't necessarily need that, but I chose to add it. And I think it looks pretty good with it. You can click down to hide or view the effect. And I do think it looks a little bit better with the effect. It's less of that harsh outline. And that is it. I'm going to File, Export as a JPEG. I'm exporting this as a JPEG because that is the file format that Canvas will accept. And that is the paper cutout demo based on Rich McCor's work.